The summer slasher movie. It's probably one of the easiest movie scripts to do. It doesn't require an intricate storyline, deep character development, or really even terrific acting. Inside the genre, the summer camp horror genre has become popular with fans for many reasons. In 1980, one of the great slasher films of all time was released with Friday the 13th. We've seen other movies and TV shows follow this simple formula over the years, including American Horror Story. When I sat down to watch the 2022 film, She Came from the Woods, my expectations weren't too high. After all, it's just a summer slasher. However, the movie failed to live up to even my low expectations. The film suffered from atrocious acting, strange character dialogue, and a boring and confusing story. Not to mention the main villain, Agatha, isn't the least bit scary. The movie begins by showing a young girl being attacked by something out in the woods in 1945. We then fast forward to present day 1987. The camp, named Camp Briarbrook, is on the last day of summer camp. The movie attempts to capture that nostalgic 1980s feel, but does a so-so job here. The camp is put on by the McAllister family. There is the grandfather and patriarch Gilbert, who founded the camp. Then there is his daughter Heather. Heather has two sons, Sean and Peter. Gilbert founded the camp back in the 1940s, and now the family and a group of 20-year-old counselors run the camp. We get a sense early on around the characters. Peter is the goofball in the family and seems to be the practical joker. His girlfriend is Lauren, who seems to love all his terrible jokes. Sean is the more responsible one in the family, and surprisingly has a smaller role than expected in the film. I thought he was going to be the main protagonist, but he wasn't. One of the big flaws in this movie, though, is that it's not clear who the main protagonist is. Early on, it seems to be either Peter or Sean, but the movie doesn't seem to keep enough focus on one central character. This hurts the film as it somewhat dives a little bit too deep into these non-essential characters. As summer camp ends, the kids pile on the bus, and Sean drives them out of camp. The counselors then begin partying around a campfire. We start to understand more of the relationships among the counselors too. Shy Guy Danny has a crush on Kelly. Mike has a crush on Veronica, and she digs him as well. There's Dylan, the Billy Idol wannabe, who seems to be one of the troubled counselors. Then there are Ben and Ashley, who are friends. Ben and Ashley leave the group to go close up some cabins on the other side of camp. That night, Peter has stolen some syringes from the medical office. At the campsite, he wants the group to try and summon Agatha, the local legend. Agatha is said to have tortured people in the camp years ago with occult experiments. Peter, like the rest of the group, believes that Agatha's story is just a story. For some reason, Peter, although he's an adult, has never been told the truth about the Agatha legend. We learn this truth later on in the film. Still, there's not much of a backstory to this ritual as well. They don't discuss where it came from and why Peter wants them to poke their finger. Did another group try this and disappear? There's questions the story doesn't even attempt to answer. Soon Peter leads the other counselors in poking their finger in the blood sacrifice to Agatha. Then we probably get the only intelligent question in the movie, when Kelly asks if the needles are clean. It's important to point out there is an AIDS epidemic going on in the country at this time. Moments later, after pricking their fingers, we see Danny approach Kelly on the dock. He attempts to flirt with her and then tries to kiss her. Kelly's having none of it though, and puts him in the dreaded friend zone. Kelly walks back to the camp and begins telling Veronica about her guy at college. Here, we get kind of the first surprise of the film. Both Kelly and Danny seem like they're going to have a significant role in the movie, but as Kelly starts telling Veronica about the guy, we see a possessed Danny creep up from behind and bash in Kelly's head. The group is stunned, and soon Mike kills Danny. The counselors are panicked and run back to the central campground where they tell Heather what happened. Heather tries to call the police, but the phone goes out right as she is doing so. Meanwhile, Sean's bus breaks down, and the kids begin acting strange. They soon run out of the bus in a trance-like state. Ben and Ashley are finishing closing up the camp, and Peter tries to warn them. Peter's so much of a joker, though. They don't take him seriously. Several members of the group go out at this time and try and find Ben and Ashley. Then, Veronica is killed, and soon we see the children out in the woods. They resurrect Agatha and then begin attacking Ben and Ashley. Ashley is killed, and Ben escapes. The children then go after the four in the lodge. This is another massive question in the movie. There's maybe 10 kids, and there's 5 adults. Peter, Sean, Heather, Lauren, Mike, and Dylan. Why are these adults scared of taking on children? To make matters worse, the children aren't even creepy. The child actors appear tired of many of the scenes and are just running around. I imagine after some time, this is hard on such young kids. The movie should have focused on one of the children or a counselor turning and done so in a slow, suspenseful way. Mike and Peter then come up with a plan to trap the kids in the basement. There's supposed to be some sort of grand revelation here that Peter is maturing from his goofball demeanor. However, like many in this film, his acting range is very limited. Mike takes off running and eventually gets the kids in the basement. He's almost up the stairs when Dylan kicks him back down to sacrifice him to the kids. Dylan locks the door, and the kids are trapped in the basement with Mike. It's not clear how or why Agatha just can't release them. Earlier in the movie, she's shutting down power and opening doors. We soon see that a police officer arrives on the scene. They mention the name Agatha to him, and he loses it. As a pizza man drives up, the police officer hijacks the pizza man, and they drive off. Around this time, Gilbert shows up at the camp. He knows what's going on, and then decides to tell the group the story of what happened here. In 1945, Gilbert's wife was really sick, and Gilbert decided to hire a nurse to take care of her. The woman's name was Agatha. Agatha began taking care of Gilbert's wife, but then became obsessed with Gilbert. She then began poisoning Gilbert in hopes of being with Gilbert. In a moment of weakness, Gilbert would have an affair with Agatha, and hours later his wife would die. He then found out what she had done and kicked her off the premises. However, she stayed nearby and soon began experimenting on the other campers. Gilbert would eventually see Agatha with his wife's ring, and he murdered her, burying her deep in the forest. Soon, Dylan is killed, and as he lays dying, he cops a cheap feel on Lauren. Lauren isn't taking it, though, and smashes his face in. The group then devises a plan to kill Agatha. Gilbert heads down to the dock, and Peter and Sean hear someone yelling. Peter runs toward it, and is killed by Agatha. Down at the dock, Agatha shows up, and soon takes Heather hostage. A fight ensues, and Gilbert is killed. The group manages to kill Agatha, dismember her, and throw her body in the lake. The story around Agatha certainly isn't a frightening one. One of the biggest flaws in this movie is the lack of suspense and the failure to create a compelling story. The movie seems like it's trying somewhat, but it definitely fails to deliver. It's such a simple formula to make a movie like this watchable. I get that it's been done time and time again, but the writers tried a little too hard in this film, and it was more than they could handle.